Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to December and welcome to my version of Vlogmas, which is not exactly what the name suggests that it's going to be. I'm not going to be vlogging every day, but I am going to try and put out one type of bookish video per day. Sometimes that might be a vlog, sometimes that might be a wrap up like this or a TBR or some of the end of the year content that I'm really excited to make. But nevertheless, I wanted to catch you guys up on the books I read during October and November when I was kind of accidentally absent from BookTube, and I didn't read a lot of books, but I feel like I read a lot of pages still, so there's a lot to talk about. The first book that I wanted to talk about was Bunny. I read this in October, obviously, and I read it for one of my vlogs that I did get to put out, which was a horror vlog. And Bunny is by Mona Awad, and it is one of the most bizarre books I have ever read. We read this for my book club pick in October for one of my in-person book clubs. Basically, this book follows Samantha, who is in a writing master's program, and there's this group of girls that's in her cohort, and they are kind of obsessed with each other, and they call each other the bunnies, and they have what are called smut salons, which is when they gather and they write and they do some experimental, explorational type activities in order to better write for their program. Samantha has always been on the outside of this, but one day, all of a sudden, she is invited to go to the bunny smut salon, and things get crazy from there. We're talking so crazy that heads explode. And I'm just gonna leave you with that. I loved it. I think I gave it a 4-star. After Bunny, I read another horror novel, and that was Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. I kind of paired those two books together because they were both pink, both horror books, and both had an animal on the cover. Now, admittedly, I did listen to most of this on audiobook because I was traveling for dinner shows in the midst of trying to read it, and putting my headphones on helped me block out noise in the car better. But this book is not for the faint of heart, and if you are devout in any kind of religion or faith, this one might be hard to read, but I stuck with it, and I think I'm happy I stuck with it. I still kind of feel uncomfortable thinking about this book, but I'm also glad I read it, and I don't know if that makes any sense. I've had some conversations with people who also read this who are in the same boat as me, and they kind of feel the same way. Like, I don't regret reading it. I've loved Rachel Harrison's writing in the past. I've read Cackle, and I want to read her other books that she has, but this book was kind of a shift. Cackle was kind of cozy horror, and the horrific elements of that book were very minuscule to me. That book was more about just kind of self-discovery and learning to love yourself and finding the power that comes from within you. This book was about a girl who was raised in a cult and realizes that the cult is crazy, cuckoo, and leaves. However, she receives a wedding invitation from her cousin that she grew up with and loves very dearly. She finds out that her cousin actually got engaged to her kind of high school boyfriend, and whether she's going to support her cousin or whether she's going to kind of spite her ex, she does decide to go home for this wedding. And there are so many reveals that are given to us early in the book, and you're just kind of like, oh, that's what this book is about. And I can't say anything else about it. I can say this one is not cozy horror. Another book I read that kind of leans into the thriller category is The Quiet Tenant by Clemence Michelin. I read this in October, but what was really cool is it ended up being our November book club pick. And this book is You by Carolyn Kepnes meets Room by Emma Donoghue, but we are not celebrating the bad guy at all. We are empowering the women and the victims and the survivors in this story. So this book is about a serial killer who lives in a town, and about the various women who he has interacted with in the midst of his serial killer journey. We don't get points of view from the serial killer, which I'm thankful for, because it's not about him. It's just that he is the central figure uniting all of these women. And so one of the points of view that we hear from is a woman who he spared for some reason and kept in his shed. We learn a lot about her and what she has had to go through and what she is willing to do to survive. We also hear from this man's daughter, who has no idea what's going on and sees her father only as a father figure. And we also get a point of view from this woman in town who sees him come into the restaurant she works at and kind of has a crush on him. And we see their relationship develop. And it's just a really interesting look at manipulative nature that humans can have to get what they want, if that makes sense. I also read in October, Red Rising by Pierce Brown, and I loved this book. I gave this book 5 stars. I am not really a sci-fi girly, but this book makes me want to be a sci-fi girly. We are following our main character in this book. His name is Darrow, and in this society on Mars, people are kind of put into a caste system based on colors, and Darrow is a red, meaning that he is at the bottom of the totem pole. And he and his fellow Reds basically work underground on Mars, mining important materials that they are told will one day make Mars habitable. Darrow is married to Io, the love of his life. They have it as good as they can have it as Reds. But Io is constantly telling Darrow, we need to be striving for more in this life. We need to be fighting the power. And Darrow is like, but like, I have you and I have a job, and isn't that enough? And this is quite a conflict between the couple. Very early in the book, something happens that triggers Darrow to maybe change his perspective. He decides that instead of being satisfied as a red, he is going to climb this hierarchy and try and become a gold, which is the highest you can be. It is quite a journey for him to get there. There is a school setting that is kind of Roman/Hunger Games inspired. We meet a ton of new characters in this academic setting, and I can't wait to see where this story goes next. It was so brutal. Things happened in this book that I was not expecting a first book in a series to go there, but this book went there, and I'm so excited because hopefully in December or January, I've already picked up the sequel, Golden Sun. And if you have Audible, these first 2 books are free for Audible members. And that is how I partook of this one, and I highly suggest it. I cannot wait to continue on. I started November out by doing a reread that I think a lot of people did of the one and the only Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. The first time I read this book, I think I gave it a 4 star, but upon reread, I gave it a 4.5. I had the best time listening to this on a reread from beginning to end. I read it super fast. I don't know if I need to tell you what Fourth Wing is about. It kind of took over the world within the last year, but essentially Top Gun, but it's dragons, but it's Hunger Games, but it's Divergent, but we got mated dragons, and we got crazy violent times. We got a romance. We got overly possessive best friends. We've got amazing side characters. The stakes are high. The tension in the romance is higher, and I just have the best time with this. I love that I got the copy with the sprayed edges, and obviously I was reading this in anticipation for the release of the sequel, which I will get to momentarily. But after this book, I actually read Starling House by Alex E. Harrow, and I did not like this book. I didn't like this book. I listened to it, and I don't know that I gave it the proper attention that it deserved, but I felt so emotionally detached to this book from the beginning to the end. I think I gave it a 3 star on Storygraph, but honestly, this is me being honest, I think it's more of like a 2.5. I just didn't enjoy it, and I enjoy most of the books I read, so when I find one that I don't enjoy, I have to let y'all know. My brother used to tell me that I'd never seen a movie or read a book I didn't like, and that's not true. I do find the ones that I don't like. It's just I'm probably not gonna watch a movie or read a book if I don't think I'm not gonna like it. And I thought I was gonna like Starling House, and I did not like Starling House. So that's the end of that discussion. And then after Starling House, the rest of November was occupied by Iron Flame. I am in the camp of I loved this book. I loved it. I've heard people talking about the pacing. I've heard people talking about the stuff that happened in this book. I've heard people talking about the writing. And to that I say, did we read the same book? Because I had the best time. I had the best time listening to this. This is the continuation of Fourth Wing. Obviously, we're in year 2 of Dragon Top Gun College, and the stakes just keep getting higher. Now, I will say, I know a lot of people were frustrated with some of the, I hesitate to even call it miscommunication that was going on in this book. It was more just like people not being able to be fully honest with each other. But I understand the position both of those people were in, and what would you have done differently? As much as I can say without spoiling anything. But we got to explore more places in the world. We got to meet more people. We got to explore character motivations and dynamics a whole lot more than we did in the first book. And I loved it. I love talking about the things that happened in here. So if you want to discuss, please message me on Instagram. I leave those social media handles below. And I would love to talk this book with you. Like, I would absolutely love it. This book got me listening to the Fantasy Fangirls podcast. If you don't listen to them, please do, because they explore everything in such depth that you're like, oh my gosh, I missed that when I read it. I need to go back and read it now. Me and my coworkers are already talking about a reread where we go back and annotate. We loved it. We loved it. Did we want to throw it across the room sometimes? Yes, but that just goes to show you what Rebecca Yarros can do, okay? It just does. That was 7 books. So did I read a whole lot? Not really. Backed up, it doesn't look like that much. I also started my tandem read of Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn at the end of November. So I've had those 2 books that probably are about this big when you stack them up together. I'm just not done yet. I'm just not done yet. And as we continue Vlogmas, you will see me finish those books, which is so exciting. Have you read any of the books I read in October and November? If you did, please let me know which ones and what you thought of them. And if not, let me know what you did read. What was your favorite book of October and November? And if you watched all the way to the end, why don't you leave me a Christmas tree to celebrate day 1 of Vlogmas? I also wanted to show you my shirt, because my shirt is hard to see when I'm sitting down. I know this show isn't on TV anymore, and I've had this sweatshirt for 3 years, but I don't care. It says, fa la 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 la, may your Christmas be a little bit Alexis. Isn't that not perfect? I feel like I am Alexis sometimes, but with that, happy Vlogmas day 1 from me. I look forward to seeing you here again tomorrow.